In the darkness of night, when the highway becomes desolate and the cold intensifies till breath freezes, truckers fear one thing the most: black ice, the killer ice that's invisible but takes lives. But this story isn't just about ice. It's about what waits beneath the ice. Because on some highways, death also drives. The clock on my dashboard read 2:17 a.m. when I first felt the truck start to drift. Not much, just a subtle slide that sent ice water through my veins. Black ice, the trucker's silent killer. I'd been hauling refrigerated goods across I-90 through Montana for 15 years, and I knew that feeling. That whisper of death beneath your tires. I eased off the accelerator, letting my speed drop from 50 to 40. The highway stretched ahead like a black ribbon disappearing into nothing. No moon, no stars, just my headlights cutting through the darkness and the occasional reflector post glowing like demon eyes on the shoulder. The weather report had been clear: black ice advisory from Miles City to Billings. Extreme caution advised. But I'd driven through worse. Or so I told myself. The load was time-sensitive, 12,000 pounds of frozen meat destined for a distributor in Seattle. I was already running 6 hours behind schedule because of an earlier breakdown in Fargo. My CB radio crackled with static. I'd been listening to it for the past hour, hoping for some chatter, some sign of life on this godforsaken stretch. But there was nothing. Every other trucker with half a brain had probably pulled over at a truck stop to wait out the storm. Every trucker except me. The fog rolled in at 2:23 a.m., came from nowhere, thick, white, suffocating. Within seconds, my visibility dropped to maybe 30 feet. I slowed down even more, my hands locked on the wheel, every muscle in my body tense. The road had vanished. I was driving blind, trusting the faint yellow line on my right to keep me from drifting into the ditch. That's when I saw them. 2 red dots glowing in the fog ahead. Brake lights. Relief washed over me. Another truck. Another driver stupid enough to be out here. At least I wasn't alone. I eased off the gas a bit more, keeping a safe distance, watching those red lights like they were the only real thing in the universe. But something felt wrong. The lights weren't moving naturally. They weren't flickering or pulsing the way brake lights do when someone's actually braking. They were just there, steady, unblinking, like eyes watching me. I blinked hard, rubbed my face. Fatigue, I told myself. You're tired. You've been driving for 11 hours straight. Your brain is playing tricks. But the lights stayed. I followed them for 5 minutes. 10, 15. They maintained the exact same distance ahead of me, never getting closer, never falling behind. I tried speeding up slightly, they moved further away. I slowed down, they slowed down. My heart started hammering. I grabbed my CB radio. Truck ahead. This is northbound 227. You copy? Static. I tried again. Truck with the brake lights. You reading me? Nothing but white noise and the hum of my engine. That's when I noticed something that made my blood freeze colder than the ice beneath my wheels. There were no tire tracks in the thin layer of snow on the road. The red lights were there. I could see them clearly, cutting through the fog. But there was no truck, no vehicle, no explanation. I should have stopped. Every instinct screamed at me to pull over, to wait for dawn, to call someone. But I couldn't. The lights were leading me forward, and something deeper than logic told me I needed to follow. My speedometer read 35 now. The fog had gotten thicker, if that was even possible. I could barely see the hood of my own truck. But those red lights, they were crystal clear, bright, almost hypnotic. At 2:41 a.m., they changed direction. The lights drifted slightly to the right, toward an exit I didn't remember being there. I hesitated, my hands sweating despite the cold. Every map I'd studied showed nothing but straight highway for the next 40 miles. No exits, no rest stops, nothing. But the lights insisted. I followed them onto the exit ramp, my trailer groaning as we took the curve. The road got narrower, the fog denser. Trees closed in on both sides, skeletal branches reaching across the road like fingers. The red lights stayed ahead, patient, waiting for me to catch up. What the hell am I doing? I whispered to myself. The lights led me down the narrow road for another 10 minutes. Then, without warning, they stopped. I hit my brakes, gently, carefully, and came to a full stop about 50 feet behind them. My high beams illuminated nothing but fog and road. No truck, no vehicle, no explanation for those lights. My CB radio exploded with static, then a voice, distorted, distant, like it was coming from underwater. Don't move. I froze. Stay here. The voice cut out. The red lights flickered once, twice, then vanished completely. I sat there in the suffocating darkness, engine idling, heart trying to break through my ribcage. My hand hovered over the gear shift. Every fiber of my being wanted to turn around to get back to the highway, to pretend this never happened. But I stayed. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The fog started to lift slightly, and I could make out shapes ahead, something massive blocking the road. I squinted, leaning forward. It was an overpass, and beneath it, oh God. I put the truck in park and stepped out, my legs shaking. The cold hit me like a physical force, but I barely felt it. I walked forward slowly, my boots crunching on ice, my breath forming clouds in front of my face. The pileup was the worst I'd ever seen. 15 vehicles, maybe more, twisted together in a nightmare of metal and glass. Semi-trucks jackknifed at impossible angles. Cars crushed like tin cans. A passenger bus on its side, windows shattered, seats visible through the broken frame. Everything was coated in ice, reflecting my flashlight beam like a crystal graveyard. No lights, no movement, no survivors. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. There's been an accident, I said, my voice hollow. I-90 somewhere between Miles City and Billings. Multiple vehicles. I don't know how long ago it happened, but you need to send everyone. The dispatcher's voice was calm, professional. Sir, we're aware of the situation. Emergency crews are on site now. Are you injured? What? No, I just found it. I'm standing here right now and there's nobody. Sir, that's impossible. That accident happened 6 hours ago. The highway has been closed since 8 p.m. How did you get through? I turned around slowly, looking back at the road I just traveled. The narrow exit, the path through the fog. None of it made sense. I followed brake lights. Red brake lights in the fog. They led me here. Silence on the other end. Then, sir, what's your exact location? I walked back to my truck and checked my GPS. According to the screen, I was on a service road that hadn't been used in 20 years. The exit I'd taken didn't exist on any current map. The dispatcher's voice returned, Sir, I'm sending a unit to your location. Stay in your vehicle. I climbed back into my cab, locked the doors, and waited. The highway patrol arrived 40 minutes later, 2 officers in a SUV, looking confused about how I'd gotten where I was. The older officer, a gray-haired man with tired eyes, studied my truck, then studied me. You said you followed red lights? Yes, sir. Brake lights. They led me off the highway, down this road, straight to the pileup. The 2 officers exchanged a look I couldn't read. Son, the older one said quietly, this is the 5th time this month someone's reported being led away from that accident by mysterious lights. Always the same story. Red brake lights, appearing out of nowhere, disappearing just before the pileup. My mouth went dry. What are you saying? The younger officer pulled out a tablet and showed me photos. 3 years ago, same stretch of highway, same conditions, black ice and fog. 3 truckers died in a pileup. They were traveling together, trying to help each other through the storm. One of them was broadcasting on CB radio up until the moment of impact, warning other drivers to slow down. He swiped to another photo. 3 faces, 3 names, 3 dates of death, all exactly 3 years ago to the day. The last transmission anyone heard was him saying, I can see brake lights ahead. Thank God. We're not alone. The older officer put his hand on my shoulder. If you'd stayed on the main highway, you'd have hit that pileup at full speed. Fog that thick, black ice that bad. you wouldn't have had time to stop. Those lights saved your life. I looked back at the empty road, the fog beginning to lift, and I understood. They were still out there, still driving, still trying to warn others, still trying to save lives they couldn't save before they died. I drove away that morning in silence, taking the detour the officers provided. But before I left, I stood outside my truck and spoke to the empty highway. Thank you, whoever you are. Thank you. The wind picked up, cold and sharp, and for just a moment, I swear to God, I saw them in my side mirror. 3 trucks, 3 sets of red brake lights, glowing steady in the morning darkness. Then they were gone. I quit long-haul trucking 6 months later. Took a local route, daytime only, no overnight runs. But every year on that date, I drive back to that stretch of I-90. I park on the shoulder where I saw those lights, and I leave 3 cups of coffee on the guardrail. For the drivers who never made it home. For the lights that still guide us through the darkness. For the phantoms who saved my life. The first rule of trucking they teach you is simple. Never pick up hitchhikers. Never. Not in good weather, not in bad weather, not ever. It's a rule that's been drilled into every driver's head since the day they get their CDL. A rule written in the blood of drivers who learned it too late. I broke that rule on February 9, 2024, at 11:43 p.m., just outside Fargo, North Dakota. The black ice storm had hit without warning. One moment I was cruising at a comfortable 60 on Highway 29. The next I was white-knuckling it at 35, watching my trailer fishtail with every gust of wind. The temperature had dropped to -15 in less than an hour. The kind of cold that kills you if you're caught outside for more than 20 minutes. That's what I told myself when I saw him. He was standing on the shoulder, thumb out, wearing nothing but a thin denim jacket and jeans. No hat, no gloves, no scarf. His skin looked blue even in the darkness, illuminated by my headlights as I passed. I should have kept driving. God help me, I should have kept driving. But I didn't. I hit the brakes, gently because of the ice, and pulled onto the shoulder about 50 yards ahead of him. I watched in my side mirror as he approached. His movements slow and stiff, like his joints had frozen solid. When he reached the passenger door, I leaned over and opened it. The cold that rushed in felt like being punched in the chest. Jesus, man, get in before you freeze to death, I said. He climbed in without a word, moving with an odd, mechanical precision. Up close, he looked even worse. His skin wasn't just pale, it was gray, with a waxy quality that made me think of corpses I'd seen at my grandfather's funeral. His lips were cracked and bleeding. Ice crystals clung to his eyebrows and the stubble on his jaw. But his eyes were what really got me. They were clear and bright, almost feverishly so, like 2 blue flames burning in a frozen face. Where you headed? I asked, cranking the heat up to maximum. He didn't answer right away, just sat there, staring straight ahead through the windshield at the swirling snow. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper, hoarse and crackling like ice breaking on a frozen lake. North. North? That's it? Buddy, north is a big direction. You got a specific destination. Just north. I glanced at him again, feeling the first whisper of unease crawl up my spine. Something was wrong. The way he sat, perfectly still, hands folded in his lap, not even shivering despite being half frozen. Normal people shiver. It's the body's natural response. But this guy was like a statue. You got a name? I asked, trying to keep my voice friendly, conversational. Daniel. Okay, Daniel. I'm Mike. Listen, you're lucky I came along. Another hour out there and you'd be dead. What the hell were you thinking? Hitching in this weather. He turned to look at me then, and I had to force myself not to flinch. Those eyes, they weren't angry or grateful or scared. They were just empty, like looking into a frozen pond and seeing nothing but darkness beneath the ice. I didn't have a choice, he said. We drove in silence for the next 30 miles. I tried making conversation a few more times, but Daniel only gave one-word answers or didn't respond at all. He just sat there, staring out the window at the darkness rushing past, occasionally raising one hand to touch the glass like he was trying to remember what it felt like. The storm got worse. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. I was doing 25 now, maybe 30 when I felt confident about the road. My CB radio crackled with warnings from other drivers who'd pulled over to wait it out. Smart people. Unlike me. At 12:47 a.m., Daniel spoke again. "Do you believe in second chances?" The question came out of nowhere, breaking the silence so abruptly that I actually jumped. "What? Second chances? Do you believe people get them?" I thought about it, gripping the wheel tighter as the truck hit a patch of ice and drifted slightly before the tires caught again. "I don't know, man. I'd like to think so." "Why?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I made a mistake. A long time ago. I thought I could fix it, but..." His voice trailed off. I waited for him to continue, but he didn't, just went back to staring out the window. "What kind of mistake?" I asked. "The kind you don't come back from." The way he said it, flat, emotionless, like he was reading from a script, sent ice water through my veins that had nothing to do with the temperature outside. "Look, Daniel, I don't know what you're going through, but right there." I blinked. "What?" He was pointing ahead through the windshield at the empty highway stretching into darkness. "Right there. That's where I need to go." I looked. There was nothing. No exit, no rest stop, no building. Just snow-covered fields on both sides of the highway and the dim outline of fence posts. "Daniel, there's nothing there. Maybe you're confused. The cold can." "Right there," he repeated, more insistent this time. "Please, stop the truck." Something in his voice made me comply. Against every instinct screaming at me to keep driving, I eased on the brakes and pulled onto the shoulder. The truck came to a stop, engine rumbling, heater blasting warm air that suddenly felt insufficient against the cold radiating from my passenger. "Okay," I said slowly. "We're stopped. Now what?" Daniel turned to look at me one final time. And in that moment, I saw something in his face that I'll never forget. Not anger, not sadness, just a profound, infinite exhaustion. "Thank you for stopping," he said. "Not everyone does anymore." "Daniel, wait." But when I turned to face him fully, he was gone. Not getting out of the truck. Not opening the door. Just gone. The passenger seat was empty. I sat there, frozen in disbelief, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it over the engine. My eyes darted around the cab, checking the back, the floor, anywhere he could have hidden. Nothing. The passenger door was still closed, locked from the inside. The snow outside was undisturbed except for my own tire tracks. "What the fuck?" I whispered. "What the actual fuck?" My hands were shaking as I grabbed the door handle and stumbled out into the storm. The cold hit me like a physical blow, but I barely felt it. I walked around the entire truck, checking every side, looking for footprints, looking for any sign that Daniel had been real. Nothing. Just virgin snow and howling wind. I climbed back in the cab, slammed the door, and locked it. My breath came in short, panicked gasps. I was either losing my mind, or something impossible had just happened. Neither option was comforting. I put the truck in gear with shaking hands and pulled back onto the highway. I needed to get away from this place. Needed to keep moving. Needed to. The memorial appeared in my headlights 5 miles later. A white cross on the side of the road, partially buried in snow. I almost missed it, but something made me slow down, made me look, and that's when I saw the photo. It was weathered and faded, protected by a plastic sleeve zip-tied to the cross. But even through the snow and ice covering it, I could see the face clearly. Daniel. Same face, same clear blue eyes, same thin denim jacket. My truck rolled to a stop. I sat there, staring at that photo, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. Then I forced myself to get out, to walk over to the memorial, to read the inscription carved into the cross. Daniel Morrison, 1989 to 2014, beloved son and brother lost to the ice. Below the cross was a smaller plaque, added more recently. The metal still looked relatively new. He was trying to get home. If you see him, Tell him we're still waiting. My legs gave out. I fell to my knees in the snow, staring at the memorial, my mind screaming. 2014. 10 years ago. 10 years ago to the exact day, I checked my phone to confirm. February 9th, 2014. I don't know how long I knelt there. Minutes. Hours. Time lost meaning. Eventually, the cold forced me back to my truck. I climbed in, locked the doors, and just drove. I didn't stop until I reached Grand Forks, 70 miles north. At the first truck stop, I stumbled inside and went straight to the coffee station. An old driver was there, filling his thermos. He took one look at my face and frowned. "You look like you've seen a ghost, son." I laughed, came out high and broken. I picked up a hitchhiker outside Fargo. He disappeared in my truck. I expected him to laugh at me, to call me crazy. Instead, his face went pale. Thin denim jacket? Blue eyes? Doesn't talk much? I stared at him. "How did you?" "Daniel Morrison. He's been hitching that stretch for 10 years. Died in a black ice crash trying to get home to see his dying mother. Never made it." The old driver poured his coffee with shaking hands. "Dozens of drivers have picked him up. He always disappears at the same spot. Always says right there and points at nothing. But why? What does he want?" The old driver looked at me with tired, haunted eyes. "He's still trying to get home. Still trying to make it in time. Some ghosts don't know they're dead. Some just can't accept it." I drove home the next day, took a week off, and seriously considered quitting. But I didn't. I'm still driving. Still hauling freight up and down Highway 29. But I never pick up hitchhikers anymore. Not even in storms. Especially not in storms. Because now I know the truth. Sometimes the dead don't rest. Sometimes they just keep walking, keep hitching, keep trying to complete that one last journey they never finished. And sometimes, if you're unlucky enough, you're the one who gives them a ride. Last week, I passed that memorial again. Someone had left fresh flowers. And written in the snow next to the cross, in handwriting that looked like it was made by a frozen finger, were 2 words: "Still waiting." I didn't stop. I haven't stopped there since. And I never will again. I've been driving trucks for 23 years. Started when I was 21, fresh out of a dead-end factory job, looking for freedom and decent pay. In those 23 years, I've seen just about everything the road can throw at you. Blowouts at 70 miles per hour, brake failures on mountain grades, drunk drivers swerving into my lane, deer, elk, even a damn buffalo once in South Dakota. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened on I-80 through Wyoming on the night of January 14, 2024. I was hauling 40,000 pounds of lumber from Oregon to Chicago. The load was heavy but well-balanced, strapped down tight according to regulations. I checked it 3 times before leaving the last truck stop. Everything was perfect. Textbook. The weather forecast had mentioned possible black ice, but the highway looked clear when I entered Wyoming. The roads were wet but not frozen. Temperature hovered just above freezing. I kept my speed at a careful 55, giving myself plenty of room to react. That's the thing about black ice. It doesn't warn you. It doesn't announce itself. One second you're in complete control, the next second physics stops working the way it should. It happened at 1:34 a.m. I was climbing a gentle grade about 40 miles east of Rock Springs when I felt it. That sickening, floating sensation when your tires lose contact with reality. The trailer started to drift right. Not fast. Almost lazy. But I knew what was coming. Every trucker's nightmare. The jackknife. When you're hauling 40,000 pounds and your trailer starts to swing, there's very little you can do. You can't hit the brakes, that makes it worse. You can't accelerate, that just speeds up the disaster. All you can do is try to steer into it and pray. I did everything right. Turned the wheel gently into the slide. Kept my foot off the brake. Stayed calm. But the trailer kept swinging. I watched in my mirrors as it came around, the massive weight of all that lumber pulling my cab sideways. The world went into slow motion. I could see the jackknife forming, the angle between cab and trailer getting sharper, more severe. 45 degrees. 60 degrees. In about 3 seconds, I was gonna lose it completely. The truck would flip. 40,000 pounds of lumber and 20 tons of metal would cartwheel across the highway, and I'd be lucky if they found enough of me to bury. I gripped the wheel, muscles locked, and screamed, "Not like this!" And then something impossible happened. The truck straightened out. Not gradually, not naturally. It just straightened, like invisible hands had grabbed both the cab and trailer and forced them back into alignment. The sensation was so sudden, so violent, that I felt my seat belt dig into my chest. The steering wheel jerked in my hands, pulling itself straight. Within 2 seconds, I was driving normally again. Straight line, perfect control, like nothing had happened. I sat there, gasping, my heart trying to break through my ribcage. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the wheel. Sweat poured down my face despite the cold. I eased off the gas and let the truck slow down to 40, then 35. "What the hell just happened?" I whispered. That's when my CB radio crackled to life. The voice that came through the speaker was deep, rough, weathered, the voice of someone who'd spent decades behind a wheel. But there was something wrong with it, a quality I couldn't quite place, like it was coming from very far away or from underwater. "You're welcome, driver." I grabbed the CB handset so fast I nearly dropped it. "Who is this? Who's on this channel?" Static. Just static and the hum of my engine. "Hello? Who am I talking to?" More static. Then, cutting through the white noise, "Watch the next curve." The voice disappeared, replaced by the empty hiss of an open channel. I stared at the CB radio like it had just grown teeth. My hands were still shaking. Every rational part of my brain was screaming that what just happened was impossible. Trucks don't straighten themselves out of jackkniffs. Physics doesn't work that way. And voices don't just appear on CB radios to give cryptic warnings. But I'd felt it. Those invisible hands. That impossible correction. And now someone or something was telling me to watch the next curve. I looked ahead at the highway. The next curve was coming up in about half a mile. A long, sweeping left turn that normally wouldn't be a problem. But if there was black ice, I slowed down even more. 25 miles per hour. Other trucks would normally fly past me at this speed, but the highway was empty. I was completely alone out here, just me and the darkness and whatever was watching over me. The curve approached. I could see my headlights starting to bend left as the road turned. I eased into it, barely touching the gas, ready for anything. The black ice was everywhere. The entire curve, maybe a quarter mile of road, was a sheet of glass. I could see it glistening in my headlights. That telltale wet shine that means death if you're not prepared. If I'd hit that at 55 miles per hour, there would have been no recovery. I'd have slid straight off the road and down the embankment on the right side. Instead, I crawled through it at 25, holding my breath, feeling the truck want to drift but maintaining just enough control to keep it straight. Took forever. Every second felt like an hour. But I made it through. As I cleared the curve and felt my tires grip real pavement again, the CB crackled once more. "Good. Keep your speed down. There's more ahead." This time I was ready. "Who are you? How did you know about that ice?" Silence. "Please. I need to know. What happened back there? How did my truck?" "You almost died, driver. I stopped it." The matter-of-fact way he said it made my blood run cold. "How? How did you stop it?" "Same way I've stopped 100 others. Same way I'll stop 100 more." "I don't understand. Are you following me? Are you in another truck?" A sound came through the speaker. It might have been a laugh, or it might have been static. Couldn't tell. "I'm always on this road. Been here for 30 years. We'll be here for 30 more. Maybe longer. What's your name?" The static grew louder, and for a moment I thought I'd lost him. Then, barely audible, almost lost in the noise, "Big Jack." I drove the rest of that stretch at 30 miles per hour, following the mysterious voice's warnings. He called out 3 more patches of black ice, 2 dangerous curves, and 1 spot where a deer was about to cross. Every warning was accurate. Every warning saved my life. But after that last warning about the deer, The voice didn't come back. I tried calling out on the CB for the next 20 miles. Big Jack, you there? Big Jack, come in. Nothing. Just static and silence. I made it to the truck stop outside of Laramie at 4:15 a.m., pulled into a spot, and sat there with my engine idling, trying to process what had happened. My hands had finally stopped shaking, but my mind was racing. Big Jack. That name meant something. I'd heard it before, years ago, but I couldn't remember where. I went inside, got coffee, and found a group of older drivers sitting in the corner booth. They had that look, the weathered faces, the permanent squint from decades of staring at highways, the way they held their coffee cups like lifelines. I walked over. Any of you ever heard of someone called Big Jack? The conversation stopped instantly. 5 pairs of eyes turned to look at me. The oldest driver, a man who looked like he'd been driving since the invention of the diesel engine, set down his cup slowly. Where did you hear that name, son? On my CB. About 3 hours ago. He helped me through some black ice on I-80. The drivers exchanged glances. The old man gestured to an empty seat. Sit down. You need to hear this. I sat. Big Jack, the old driver began, was Jack Thornton. Legendary driver back in the 80s and 90s. Drove this route, Oregon to Chicago, for 30 years. Never missed a delivery. Never had an accident. He knew these roads better than anyone alive. What happened to him? January 15th, 1994. 30 years ago tomorrow. He was driving through Wyoming, hit some black ice, went into a jackknife. But here's the thing, he had options. He could have let the truck go off the road into an empty field. Probably would have survived. The old man paused, took a sip of coffee. But there was another truck coming the other way. Young driver, just started his career, probably wasn't paying attention. Jack's trailer was swinging right into his lane. If Jack had done nothing, that young driver would have been killed instantly. What did he do? He cranked his wheel hard and forced his own truck off the road. Sent himself down a 40-foot embankment instead of the field. The other driver survived without a scratch. Jack died on impact. I felt the air leave my lungs. They say his last words over the CB were, "Watch yourself, driver. These roads will kill you if you're not careful." After that, the stories started. Drivers reporting a voice on their CB warning them about black ice. Trucks straightening out of jackknifes when they shouldn't. Someone watching over drivers on this stretch. Another driver spoke up. I've been driving for 18 years. 3 times I've heard that voice. 3 times it saved my life. Once was a jackknife just like you. Truck straightened itself out like magic. A third driver nodded. Same here. 5 years ago, almost the same spot you're describing. Felt like someone grabbed my trailer and pulled it straight. Heard a voice say, "Not today, driver." The old man looked at me seriously. You're not the first. Won't be the last. Big Jack is still out there. Still driving his route. Still saving drivers who are about to lose it. Some say he can't rest until he's saved as many lives as he's driven miles. Others say he just loves the road too much to leave it. I finished my coffee in silence, processing everything. When I finally stood to leave, the old man called after me. Hey son, next time you drive through Wyoming and you make it through alive, say thank you. He can hear you. I nodded and walked out. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've driven that stretch of I-80 maybe 20 times. I've never heard Big Jack's voice again. Never felt those invisible hands. But I think about him every time I hit black ice. Every time I feel my trailer start to drift. And every time I make it through alive, I key my CB and say the same thing. Thanks, Big Jack. I owe you one. I never get a response. But sometimes, just sometimes, I swear I can hear the faint sound of a diesel engine in the distance. The low rumble of an old truck from the 80s, still rolling, still watching, still saving lives on the frozen highways of Wyoming. Last week, I was at that same truck stop, talking to a young driver who looked terrified. First time hauling through black ice. I bought him a coffee and told him the story. When I finished, he looked at me like I was crazy. You really believe that? Ghost truckers saving people. I looked at the kid and remembered being his age. Remembered thinking I knew everything about the road. Believe what you want, I said. But if you're out there and you start to lose it, if your truck starts to jackkniff and you know you're done, don't give up. Because sometimes, when you need it most, someone's watching out for you. He drove out an hour later. I haven't seen him since. But last night, I got a message on my phone from an unknown number. Made it through Wyoming. Had a close call with black ice near Rock Springs. Truck straightened out on its own. Heard a voice on my CB say, "You're welcome, driver. Thanks for the story." I said thank you like you told me to. I smiled and deleted the message. Big Jack is still out there. Still rolling. Still saving us. And as long as there are trucks on that highway, as long as there's black ice and fog and darkness, he always will be. I've driven I-94 through North Dakota more times than I can count. 352 miles of mostly straight highway, cutting through endless prairie and farmland. I know every exit, every rest stop, every way station. I could drive it blindfolded. That's why what happened on March 3, 2024, at 3:17 a.m., shouldn't have been possible. I was hauling automotive parts from Seattle to Detroit, running about 2 hours behind schedule because of a delayed loading dock. The weather had turned nasty around Bismarck. Freezing rain that turned to black ice the moment it hit the pavement. Smart drivers had pulled over. I should have been one of them, but the dispatcher was breathing down my neck about the delivery time, and I'd driven through worse. Or so I kept telling myself as my speedometer dropped from 60 to 50 to 45. The wipers could barely keep up with the ice building on my windshield. Every bridge was a skating rink. Every overpass a death trap. The highway was empty. Not another vehicle in sight. Just me, the darkness, and the occasional green mile marker glowing in my headlights. That's when I saw it. Lights ahead. Bright, fluorescent lights cutting through the freezing rain. My heart lifted. A way station. I could pull in, check the road conditions, maybe wait out the worst of the ice storm. As I got closer, I could make out the familiar structure, the small building, the scales, the covered inspection area. A figure in a reflective safety vest stood at the entrance, waving a flashlight, directing me to pull in. Thank God, I thought. Civilization. I slowed down and carefully guided my truck onto the exit ramp, following the flagman signals. My tires crunched on what sounded like fresh gravel. The lights were almost blinding after hours of darkness. Those harsh LED fixtures that way stations always use. The flagman approached my window. I rolled it down, ready to hand over my logbook and registration. But something was wrong. The man's face was hidden deep inside his hood, despite the fact that we were under a covered area. I couldn't see his features at all, just darkness where his face should be. His reflective vest looked old, faded, like it had been used for decades. When he spoke, his voice was flat, emotionless, like a recording played through a broken speaker. "You need to wait here." "Wait? For how long? What's going on?" "Roads closed ahead." I frowned. "Closed?" I didn't hear anything on the CB. "What happened?" The man didn't answer. He just pointed down the highway into the darkness with one gloved hand, then turned and walked away toward the building. "Hey, wait, how long until?" But he was gone, disappeared into the shadows between the lights. I sat there, engine idling, confusion turning to unease. Something about this place felt wrong. The lights were too bright. The silence was too complete. And that flagman, I grabbed my phone to check the road conditions. No signal. Not unusual out here in the middle of nowhere, but still frustrating. My CB radio was silent too. Not even static. Just nothing. I tried calling out. "Breaker, breaker. Anyone on this channel? This is northbound 441. I'm at a way station on I-94. Anyone copy?" Silence. "Anyone? I need information about road closures ahead." Nothing. The unease was growing into something darker. Fear. I looked at my GPS. According to the screen, I was on I-94, about 60 miles west of Fargo. But there was no way station marked on the map. I zoomed in, out, changed the display settings. Nothing. That's impossible, I thought. I'm sitting in it. I can see it. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. I watched the clock on my dashboard tick forward with agonizing slowness. No other trucks pulled in. No cars passed on the highway. The flagman never returned. The building's windows glowed with light, but I couldn't see anyone inside. The fear was building now, pressing against my chest like a physical weight. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to leave, to get back on the highway, to get away from this place. But the flagman had said the road was closed. What if there was an accident ahead? A chemical spill? A pileup? What if driving forward meant driving straight into disaster? I decided to wait 5 more minutes. Then I'd make a decision. At the 42-minute mark, I heard it. A sound in the distance. Faint at first, then growing louder. An explosion. A massive, earth-shaking boom that rattled my windows and made my truck vibrate. Then sirens. Multiple sirens, wailing in the darkness. I grabbed my CB radio again. This time it crackled to life. Multiple vehicles involved. Need fire and rescue. Oh God. The whole thing's on fire. I-94 eastbound. Mile marker 312. My blood ran cold. Mile marker 312. According to my GPS, that was 3 miles ahead of my current position. If I hadn't stopped here, if I'd kept driving, I would have been right in the middle of it. I sat there, hands shaking, trying to process what had just happened. The flagman had saved my life. This way station, wherever it was, whatever it was, had saved my life. I keyed my CB. This is northbound 441. I'm close to that location. Do you need assistance? A state trooper's voice came back. Negative for 41. Stay clear of the area. We've got a tanker truck explosion. Highways completely blocked. Where are you exactly? I'm at a way station, about 3 miles west of mile marker 312. A pause. Say again. 441? You're at a way station. Yes, sir. I pulled in about 45 minutes ago. Flagman told me the road was closed. Another pause, longer this time. 441. There's no way station in that area. The nearest one is 30 miles east of your position. My mouth went dry. That's not possible. I'm sitting in it right now. I can see the building, the lights, the scales. 441. I need you to give me your exact GPS coordinates. I read them off with shaking hands. That's an old service area. Been closed for 15 years. Nothing there but an empty parking lot. I looked up at the building, at the blazing lights, at the flagman station where I'd been waved in. Sir, I'm telling you, I'm looking at a functioning way station right now. 441. I'm sending a unit to your location. Stay in your vehicle. The CB went silent. I sat there in the glowing light of the impossible way station, my mind refusing to accept what I was being told. This place was real. I could see it. I could hear the hum of the electrical fixtures. I could smell the diesel and road salt. How could it not be here? I don't know how long I waited. Time seemed to behave strangely in that place. It felt like hours, but my dashboard clock said only 20 minutes had passed before I saw the flashing lights of a highway patrol SUV pulling in. 2 officers got out, their flashlights cutting through the freezing rain. They approached my truck cautiously, and I rolled down my window. You the driver who called in? The older officer asked. He was maybe 50, with gray hair and the weathered face of someone who'd spent decades dealing with highway disasters. Yes, sir. I pulled in here about an hour ago. Flagman told me the road was closed. The officers exchanged a glance I couldn't read. Sir, can you step out of your truck, please? I climbed down, my legs stiff from sitting. The moment my boots hit the ground, I felt it. Something was different. The air was colder. The lights seemed dimmer. The older officer swept his flashlight around. What exactly do you see here? The way station, the building, the scales, the lights. I turned to point, and my words died in my throat. It was gone. The building had vanished. The lights were gone. The flagman station had disappeared. All that remained was an empty, cracked parking lot, overgrown with weeds, covered in snow and ice. An old, faded sign lay on the ground. North Dakota Department of Transportation. Way station closed, 2009. I staggered backward, my mind reeling. It was here. I swear to God it was here. I saw it. I talked to the flagman. "We believe you," the younger officer said quietly. I looked at him. "What?" The older officer put his flashlight away and sighed. "You're not the first driver to report this. And you won't be the last." He gestured for me to follow him to a concrete barrier at the edge of the lot. Through the freezing rain, I could barely make out a memorial plaque mounted on the barrier. The officer shined his light on it. "In memory of North Dakota Highway Patrol Trooper James McKenzie 1962 to 2009 and Way Station Personnel Sarah Chun, Michael Rodriguez, who gave their lives in service March 3, 2009. Below the names was an inscription. During a black ice storm, Trooper McKenzie and Way Station staff remained on duty to warn drivers of dangerous conditions ahead. They saved 17 lives before a tanker truck lost control and crashed into the station, causing an explosion that killed all three. Their sacrifice will never be forgotten. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. March 3rd. That's today. 15 years ago. To the day, the older officer confirmed. "And you're not the first. Every year on this date, when there's black ice, drivers report seeing the way station, seeing lights, being waved in by someone in a reflective vest, being told to wait because the road's closed ahead. And there's always an accident," the younger officer added. "Every single time. 3 miles ahead, right around mile marker 312. It's like they're still here, still doing their job, still saving lives." I looked back at the empty lot, seeing it now for what it really was: a graveyard, a memorial, a place where 3 people had died doing what they thought was right. "The tanker explosion tonight," I whispered. "How many casualties?" "None," the older officer said. "The driver survived. He's banged up, but he'll make it. You would have been vehicle number 2. If you'd hit that at highway speed, he didn't need to finish. We all knew what would have happened." I walked back to my truck in a daze. The officers followed, their expressions somber. "What do I do now?" I asked. "You drive carefully to the detour we've set up," the older officer said. "You deliver your load. You go home to your family. And you remember that sometimes, when we need it most, the people we've lost are still watching out for us." I climbed back into my cab, started the engine, and followed the patrol car to the detour route. As we passed the memorial, I looked back one more time. For just a moment, I swear to God, I saw them. 3 figures standing in the empty lot. A state trooper in uniform, a woman with a clipboard, a man in a reflective vest. They were watching me go, making sure I got out safe. Then they were gone. I made my delivery in Detroit 2 days later, called my wife, told her I loved her, took a week off to process what had happened. When I came back to work, I requested a different route. My dispatcher asked why. I told him I needed a change of scenery. He didn't push it. But last month, on March 3, 2025, I got a call from another driver, a kid who'd just started long-haul trucking. He was shaken, confused, asking me about something impossible he'd just experienced on I-94 in North Dakota. A way station that wasn't on any maps. A flagman who told him to wait. An accident he would have driven straight into if he'd kept going. I told him the story, all of it. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. "So they're still out there? Still saving people?" "Yeah," I said. "They're still out there. What should I do?" I thought about Trooper McKenzie, about Sarah Chun and Michael Rodriguez, about 3 people who could have gone home that night but chose to stay, chose to keep working, chose to save 17 lives at the cost of their own. "Next time you drive through North Dakota," I said, "and you pass mile marker 312, you slow down, you pay attention, and you say thank you, because they're still watching, still protecting, still doing their job. Will they hear me?" "Yeah," I said, my voice catching. "Yeah, I think they will." I hung up and looked at the calendar. It was March 2nd. Tomorrow would be the 16th anniversary. And somewhere on I-94, in an empty lot where a way station used to stand, 3 ghosts were getting ready for another shift. Another night of black ice. Another night of saving lives. Forever on duty. Forever watching the road. Forever making sure we make it home. There are sounds you never forget. Your first child's cry. Your mother's laugh. The voice of someone you love saying goodbye for the last time. These sounds carve themselves into your memory, into your soul, and they stay there forever. The scream I heard on South Dakota's Highway 212 is one of those sounds. It was February 28, 2024, around 4:30 a.m. I'd been on the road for 9 hours, hauling frozen food from Sioux Falls to Rapid City. The black ice warning had come through on my weather app around 3 a.m., but I was already committed. The highway was a sheet of glass, temperature hovering at 18 degrees, and the wind was howling across the prairie like something alive and angry. I was doing 35 in a 55 zone, white-knuckling the steering wheel when I first heard it. First, I thought it was my brakes. That high-pitched metallic shriek that means something's wrong. Something's about to fail. I eased off the gas, checked my mirrors, listened carefully. But it wasn't my brakes. The sound was coming from outside, from somewhere in the darkness beyond my headlights. A scream, high-pitched, desperate, rising and falling like a siren. But it wasn't mechanical. It was human. A woman's voice, raw with terror, cutting through the wind and the engine noise like a knife. My blood turned to ice water. I slowed down even more, scanning the darkness on both sides of the highway. Nothing but snow-covered fields stretching to infinity. No houses, no cars, no lights except my own. But the screaming continued. It was getting closer. Or maybe I was getting closer to it. The sound rose in pitch, became more frantic, more desperate. It was the sound of someone in mortal terror. The sound of someone dying. I grabbed my CB radio. Breaker, breaker. This is eastbound 338. I'm on Highway 212 about 20 miles west of Faith. Does anyone else hear that? Does anyone? The scream cut through my words, so loud now that it seemed to be coming from inside my cab. And then I saw her. She was standing on the side of the road, maybe 50 yards ahead. A woman in a white nightgown, barefoot in the snow, her long dark hair whipping in the wind. She was facing away from me, toward the empty fields, and she was screaming at the sky with her arms raised like she was trying to claw down the stars. I slammed on my brakes, gently, because of the ice, and my truck slid to a stop about 20 feet from her. I sat there for a moment, my heart hammering, trying to process what I was seeing. A woman, barefoot, in a nightgown, in 18-degree weather, in the middle of nowhere, screaming like the world was ending. Every instinct told me something was horribly wrong. I put the truck in park, grabbed my emergency flashlight, and climbed out. The cold hit me like a physical blow. The wind was worse than I'd thought, carrying ice crystals that stung my face like needles. "Hey!" I shouted, approaching carefully. "Ma'am, are you okay?" She didn't respond, just kept screaming, that same high-pitched wail of pure terror. I got closer, my boots crunching in the snow. "Ma'am, I'm here to help. What's wrong?" She stopped screaming. The sudden silence was somehow worse than the noise. She stood there, perfectly still, her back to me, her nightgown fluttering in the wind. Then slowly she turned around. Her face was pale. Not just pale from cold, but corpse pale, gray and waxy. Her eyes were wide, pupils dilated so large they looked black. Her mouth was open in a silent scream, and I could see that her lips were blue, cracked, bleeding. But it was her expression that made my knees weak. Pure, undiluted terror. The look of someone who'd seen something so horrible that their mind had shattered. She raised one trembling hand and pointed past me, toward the other side of the highway. "They're still inside," she whispered, her voice hoarse and broken. "They're still inside." I turned to look where she was pointing. That's when I saw the car. It was about 30 yards off the road, buried in a snowbank at the bottom of a shallow embankment. I'd driven right past it without seeing it. The snow had drifted so high that only the rear end was visible, one taillight still glowing a faint red through the ice. My stomach dropped. Oh God, how long have you been out here? How long has that car been? I turned back to the woman, but she was screaming again. Not words this time, just that raw, animal shriek of horror and grief. I ran, slipped and slid down the embankment, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly. The snow was waist deep. The cold was already seeping through my jeans. I reached the car, a sedan, maybe 10 years old, the rear wheels still spinning slowly, uselessly. I wiped snow from the driver's window and shined my light inside. Empty. The driver's seat was empty. So was the passenger seat. I moved to the back windows, my hands shaking. The back seat was empty too. No people. No bodies. No blood. Just empty seats and the smell of gasoline and burnt rubber seeping through the door seals. What the hell? I muttered. I tried the doors. Locked. I looked through the windows again, more carefully this time. A child's car seat was strapped in the back. A woman's purse sat on the passenger seat. But no people. Where were they? If the woman on the road had gotten out, where were the others? Had they walked for help? Were they somewhere in the snow, frozen, dying? I scrambled back up the embankment, my lungs burning. The woman was still there, still screaming, but now she was clawing at her face, leaving red streaks on her gray skin. Where are they? I shouted. Where are the other people? Where are your kids? She looked at me with those terrible black eyes and screamed louder. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911 with shaking fingers. The operator answered on the second ring. 911, what's your emergency? There's been an accident on Highway 212, about 20 miles west of Faith. Car in the ditch, I don't know how long it's been there. There's a woman here. She's in shock. She's not making sense. She keeps saying, they're still inside, but the car is empty. I need police. I need ambulance. I need... Sir, stay calm. We're dispatching units now. Is the woman injured? I looked at her. She'd stopped screaming and was now just staring at the buried car, tears freezing on her cheeks. I don't know. She's barefoot. She's in a nightgown. She's been out in the cold for God knows how long. She's not responding to questions. She's just... The woman vanished. 1 second she was there, standing 3 feet away from me. The next second she was gone. Not running away, not falling, just gone, like she'd never existed. I dropped my phone in the snow. Sir? Sir, are you still there? I picked up the phone with shaking hands. She's gone. The woman. She just disappeared. Sir, what do you mean disappeared? I mean she was here and now she's not. She just fucking vanished. Sir, I need you to stay calm. Units are en route, ETA 12 minutes. Can you return to the vehicle and check again for occupants? I didn't want to. Every fiber of my being was screaming at me to get back in my truck and drive away as fast as the ice would allow. But I went. I slid back down that embankment, back to that buried car, and I looked in every window again. Still empty. Still just the car seat and the purse and the smell of gasoline. But now I saw something I'd missed before. On the dashboard, covered in a thin layer of frost, a date sticker from an oil change. Last serviced, February 28, 2019. 5 years ago. Exactly 5 years ago to the day. The highway patrol arrived 11 minutes later, 2 officers in an SUV with chains on the tires. I was back in my truck by then, heater on full blast, shivering uncontrollably despite the warmth. The older officer approached my window. You the one who called it in? Yes, sir. Show us where the vehicle is. I pointed to the embankment. They grabbed their flashlights and heavy coats and made their way down. I watched from my truck as they examined the car, tried the doors, radioed something back to dispatch. When they came back, their faces were grim. Sir, can you step out, please? I climbed down, my legs still shaky. Did you find anyone? The woman said. What woman? The woman in the nightgown. She was here, on the side of the road, screaming. She pointed at the car, said, they're still inside. Then she disappeared. The officers exchanged a look. The younger one pulled out a tablet. Can you describe her? I did. Every detail. The nightgown, the bare feet, the dark hair, the gray skin, the screaming. When I finished, the older officer's jaw was tight. He turned the tablet toward me. Is this her? It was a driver's license photo. A woman, mid-30s, dark hair, pretty smile. Alive and happy in the picture. It was her. The woman from the road. Yes, that's her. Who is she? Is she okay? Her name was Jennifer Hathaway, the officer said quietly. February 28, 2019. 5 years ago tonight. She was driving with her 2 children, ages 4 and 7, when she hit black ice right here. Lost control. Car went into the ditch. My mouth went dry. What happened to them? She got out. Tried to open the back doors to get her kids, but the locks had jammed from the impact. The car was filling with carbon monoxide from a damaged exhaust. She ran to the road to flag down help. Did anyone stop? The officer's face was stone. By the time anyone found them, it was too late. The children died from the carbon monoxide. Jennifer died from hypothermia on the side of the road. Still screaming for help. Still trying to save them. I felt my legs give out. The younger officer caught me, helped me sit on my truck's running board. People hear her sometimes, he continued. Always on this date. Always when there's black ice. She's still here. Still trying to flag down help. Still trying to save her babies. But the car, I said weakly. I looked inside. It was empty. The car was towed years ago. What you saw. The officer shook his head. Some things leave an echo, especially tragedies, especially when children are involved. The older officer put a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing stopping, calling it in. She's trying to warn people, trying to make sure what happened to her doesn't happen to anyone else. They gave me coffee, checked me for frostbite, asked if I wanted them to call someone. I said no. I just wanted to leave, to get away from this cursed stretch of road. Before I left, I walked to the spot where the woman had stood. The snow was undisturbed. No footprints. No sign anyone had been there. But in the wind, I swear I could still hear it. Faint now. Distant. But there. That scream. I finished that run to Rapid City. Made my delivery. Drove back to Sioux Falls. Requested a different route. My dispatcher didn't ask why. Maybe he'd heard the stories. But I couldn't forget. Couldn't stop thinking about Jennifer Hathaway and her 2 children. About that moment when she realized she couldn't save them. About her dying on the side of the road. Still screaming, still trying. 2 months later, I heard about another driver. Young guy, first year on the job. He'd been driving Highway 212 on February 28th. Exactly 1 year after my encounter. Black ice. Middle of the night. He reported seeing a woman on the side of the road. Hearing screaming. He stopped. Found no one. But the stop made him slow down, made him more cautious. 3 miles ahead, there was a pileup. 6 cars. If he'd been going his usual speed, he'd have been vehicle number 7. Instead, he walked away without a scratch. He told the police about the screaming woman. They showed him Jennifer's picture. That's her, he said. That's exactly her. Last week, I drove past that spot on Highway 212. It was June. Warm. Sunny. Safe. But I pulled over anyway. Walked to where I'd seen her. Where she'd stood in her bare feet in the snow, trying desperately to save her children. Someone had put up a memorial. 3 white crosses. 3 names. 3 dates. Jennifer Hathaway. Age 36 Emma Hathaway. Age 7 Noah Hathaway. Age 4. And beneath them, an inscription. She never stopped trying to save them. She never will. I stood there for a long time. Then I spoke to the empty air. I heard you. Thank you for the warning. I'll make sure other drivers know. I'll make sure they slow down. I'll make sure they pay attention. The wind picked up, warm and gentle, rustling through the prairie grass. And for just a moment, just a heartbeat, I heard it. Not a scream this time. A whisper. Thank you. I got back in my truck and drove away. But now, whenever I train new drivers, whenever I talk to young guys just starting long-haul trucking, I tell them the story. All of it. And I make them promise. If they ever drive Highway 212 in South Dakota, especially on February 28th, especially during black ice, if they hear screaming, they stop, they slow down, they pay attention, because Jennifer Hathaway is still out there, still trying to save her children, still trying to save us. And the least we can do, the very least, is listen. Montana's Highway 2 is one of the loneliest stretches of road in America. 500 miles of nothing but prairie, scattered towns, and darkness so complete it feels like driving through the void itself. I've been hauling freight across it for 12 years, and I've learned to respect that darkness, to fear it even. February 11th, 2024, 2:47 a.m. The black ice advisory had been in effect since midnight, and I should have stopped. Should have pulled into one of the truck stops and waited for dawn, waited for the road crews to do their work. But the load was urgent. Medical supplies destined for a hospital in Kalispell, and I'd driven through worse. Or so I told myself. The temperature had dropped to 9 degrees. My headlights cut through freezing fog that seemed to swallow the light. The highway stretched ahead like a black mirror, that telltale wet shine that meant death if you weren't careful. I was doing 40 in a 65 zone, every muscle tensed, waiting for that first deadly slide. I'd been alone on the highway for over an hour. Not another vehicle in sight. Just me, the darkness, and the occasional reflector post glowing like distant stars. The CB radio hissed with static and the occasional garbled transmission too far away to understand. The isolation was crushing, oppressive, like being the last person alive in the world. That's when I saw them. 5 sets of taillights appeared in the distance, glowing red through the fog. Trucks, a convoy traveling together through the storm. Relief flooded through me so powerfully I almost laughed. I wasn't alone anymore. Other drivers, experienced guys who knew these roads, moving carefully through the ice. Safety in numbers. I accelerated slightly, trying to catch up to them. My CB crackled, and I keyed the mic. Convoy ahead. This is northbound 552. You guys copy? Static. Breaker breaker. Convoy on Highway 2. This is 552. Do you copy? Nothing but white noise. Maybe they were on a different channel. I started cycling through the frequencies, calling out on each one. No response. Just that endless, hollow static. But I could see them clearly now. 5 semi-trucks traveling in perfect formation, maybe a quarter mile ahead. Their spacing was precise, professional. 50 feet between each truck, maintaining exactly the same speed. No one drifting, no one sliding, just smooth, coordinated movement through the deadly ice. I'll just follow them, I thought. Match their speed, keep my distance, let them break the wind. It's what convoys are, for mutual protection, shared vigilance. By morning, we'd all be safe, and I'd buy them coffee at the next truck stop. I settled in behind them, feeling safer than I had all night. That feeling lasted about 10 minutes. The first thing I noticed was the lights. Their tail lights never changed, never flickered, never got brighter when they braked or dimmer when they accelerated. Just steady, unwavering red, like they were painted on the fog itself. I frowned, leaning forward, squinting through my windshield. The freezing rain was getting worse, ice building up on my wipers, but I could still see them clearly. 5 trucks, 5 sets of lights, always the same distance ahead. I tried the CB again. Convoy ahead. This is 552. I'm following behind you guys. Can anyone hear me? Silence. I cycled through every channel, called out on the emergency frequency. Nothing. It was like they didn't exist on the radio at all. But I could see them, right there, solid and real. I decided to get closer, maybe flash my lights to get their attention. I increased my speed from 40 to 45, watching my speedometer carefully, feeling for any loss of traction. The trucks ahead maintained their distance, still a quarter mile, like they'd sped up the exact moment I did. 50 miles per hour, still a quarter mile ahead. 55, same distance. My heart started beating faster. That wasn't possible. I was gaining speed, but they weren't getting closer. The distance between us remained absolutely constant, like it was fixed by some invisible law of physics. I eased off the gas, letting my speed drop back to 40. The trucks ahead slowed too. The distance stayed the same. "What the hell?" I whispered. That's when I noticed the second thing. Their exhaust. Or rather, the lack of it. In 9-degree weather, diesel exhaust creates visible clouds, white vapor that billows from the stacks. I could see my own exhaust in my mirrors, thick plumes of white against the darkness. The trucks ahead had none. No exhaust, no vapor, nothing, like they weren't burning fuel at all. My hands tightened on the wheel. The fear that had been a whisper was now a shout. Something was very, very wrong. I looked at the trucks more carefully, trying to make out details through the fog and ice. The shapes were right, long hauls, 18-wheelers, probably similar loads to mine. But there was something off about them. Something I couldn't quite identify. Then I saw it. A reflector post on the side of the road, one of those orange markers that show the highway's edge. As the convoy passed it, the light reflected off the last truck's trailer. And I saw the license plate. Even through the fog, even at this distance, I could tell it was old. Faded. The wrong color. The wrong design. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and pulled up Google. "Montana license plates history," I typed, my truck drifting slightly as I looked down. I corrected, then glanced at the results. The plate design I'd glimpsed had been discontinued in 1989. 35 years ago. I dropped my phone. My breathing was coming in short, panicked gasps now. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Those trucks ahead of me, with their unchanging lights, their impossible distance, their ancient license plates, they weren't real. They couldn't be real. But I could see them. Right there. 5 trucks, traveling through the black ice, leading me forward through the darkness. I grabbed the CB radio, my voice cracking. "Convoy ahead. Who are you? What are you?" For the first time, the radio crackled with something other than static. A voice, deep, tired, sad, layered with others, like multiple people speaking in perfect unison. "Turn around, driver." Ice flooded my veins. What? Who is this? We never made it home. The words hit me like a physical blow. What are you talking about? What do you mean you never? Don't follow us. Turn around. Go back. I can't turn around. The road. Turn around now. The voice exploded from the CB with such force that I jerked the wheel instinctively. My truck skidded on the ice, the trailer swinging out. I fought for control, heart hammering, and somehow I managed to straighten out. When I looked up, the convoy was gone. Not fading into the distance. Not pulling ahead. Just gone. The highway stretched ahead, completely empty. No taillights, no trucks, nothing but darkness and fog and that deadly black ice. I sat there, engine idling, my whole body shaking. Every instinct screamed at me to do what the voice had said. Turn around, go back, get away from this cursed highway. But I couldn't. The medical supplies, the hospital, people were counting on me. I pulled out my phone and searched Highway 2 Montana truck convoy accident. The first result made my blood turn to ice water. 5 truckers die in Highway 2 pileup, February 11th, 1989. I clicked the link with shaking fingers. Havre, Montana, a devastating black ice accident claimed the lives of 5 truck drivers early this morning on Highway 2. The men were traveling together as a convoy, attempting to help each other navigate dangerous conditions, when they encountered an unmarked ice patch at mile marker 287. All 5 trucks jackknifed and collided, resulting in a massive fire. None of the drivers survived. They were in constant CB contact until the moment of impact, said Highway Patrol spokesman Robert Chun. The last thing we heard was one of them saying, "We're going to make it. Just a few more miles. We're almost home." I looked at my GPS. Mile marker 287 was 6 miles ahead. My hands moved before my brain caught up. I cranked the wheel, executed a careful U-turn on the icy highway, and started driving back the way I'd come. I didn't care about the delivery anymore. Didn't care about the schedule. I just needed to get away from mile marker 287. 3 hours later, after taking a 100-mile detour on secondary roads, I finally made it to Kalispell. Made the delivery, called my dispatcher and told him I was taking a week off. He started to argue, but something in my voice stopped him. "You okay, Jack?" "No," I said honestly. "No, I'm not." I drove home that day and spent the next week researching. Found the names of those 5 drivers. Found their photos in old newspaper archives. Young men in their 30s and 40s, smiling in grainy black and white pictures. Found their families' obituaries, their memorial services, their graves scattered across Montana. They'd been trying to get home. All of them. One had a newborn daughter. Another was supposed to celebrate his anniversary the next day. A third was heading home for his father's funeral. They never made it. And now, 35 years later, they were still out there. Still driving Highway 2 on February 11th. Still trying to warn others. Still trying to save people from the same fate that took them. I drive Highway 2 regularly. It's part of my route, part of my job. But I never drive it on February 11th. Not anymore. I take vacation days, sick days, personal days, whatever it takes. And I tell every driver I meet, if you're on Highway 2 in Montana on February 11th, and you see a convoy of 5 trucks traveling through black ice, and they won't answer your CB calls, don't follow them. Turn around. Go back. Because they're not leading you to safety. They're leading you home. To their home. And trust me, you don't want to go there. Minnesota's I-35 is a death trap in winter. Every trucker knows it. The black ice forms without warning. The wind howls across the open farmland with nothing to stop it. And the temperature can drop 20 degrees in an hour. It's killed more drivers than I care to count. January 17, 2024. 11:52 p.m. I was hauling electronics from Minneapolis to Des Moines, running 3 hours behind schedule because of a breakdown at the warehouse. The black ice warning had been scrolling across my GPS for the past hour, but I thought I had it under control. 45 miles per hour, both hands on the wheel, eyes scanning for that telltale wet shine on the pavement. The highway was empty. Most smart drivers had pulled over for the night. But I had a delivery deadline, a dispatcher breathing down my neck, and 22 years of experience that made me think I could handle it. Pride has killed more truckers than ICE ever has. My phone rang at 11:53 p.m. The sound startled me. I wasn't expecting any calls this late. I glanced at the screen mounted on my dash. Unknown number. No caller ID. No location. I almost didn't answer. Could be a spam call, a wrong number, someone trying to sell me an extended warranty on a truck I didn't own. But something made me hit the answer button. Hello. Static. Thick. Crackling static like an old radio trying to find a signal. Hello. I said again, louder. Anyone there? The static cleared, and a woman's voice came through. It was distant, distorted, like she was calling from the bottom of a well or through decades-old phone lines. But I could hear the urgency in her tone. Slow down. I blinked. What? Who is this? Slow down. You're going to crash. My heart skipped. I glanced at my speedometer, 45 miles per hour. Safe for the conditions. Maybe even too slow. Listen, I don't know who this is, but I'm fine. I'm driving safely. Slow down now. The voice exploded through my phone speaker with such force that I nearly dropped it. There was something in that scream, pure terror, desperate urgency, like she was watching me die in real time. My foot hit the brake instinctively, and that's when the trailer started to slide. The world went into slow motion. I felt the rear end of the trailer break loose, that sickening floating sensation every trucker dreads. The back was swinging right, the cab pulling left, and I was caught in the middle of a jackknife that would flip me in about 3 seconds. I did everything right, turned into the slide, kept my foot off the brake. Steady pressure, smooth movements, but it wasn't enough. The trailer kept swinging, the angle getting sharper, and I could see in my mirror that I was about to lose it completely. 40,000 pounds of electronics and metal, about to cartwheel across I-35 at 45 miles per hour. I'm gonna die, I thought. This is it. Then something impossible happened. The trailer caught. The slide stopped. The angle corrected itself. Not gradually, but suddenly, violently, like invisible hands had grabbed the trailer and forced it back into line. Within 2 seconds, I was driving straight again, my truck perfectly aligned, like nothing had happened. I was drenched in sweat, my hands locked on the wheel, my heart trying to explode out of my chest. What the? My phone was still connected. I could hear breathing on the other end. Fast, panicked breathing. Did you slow down? The woman's voice asked. Yes, I gasped. Yes, I slowed down. I almost just, how did you know? How did you know I was going to? Keep your speed at 30. Don't go faster. There's more ice ahead. Who are you? How are you seeing this? Silence. Just that crackling static. Hello? Are you still there? I'm always here, she said softly. I'm always watching I-35. What does that mean? Are you with Highway Patrol? Are you monitoring traffic cameras? I died here, she whispered. 10 years ago, I was a dispatcher. I was trying to warn a driver about black ice when I crashed. Now I can't leave, but I can still warn people. I can still save them. The temperature in my cab seemed to drop 20 degrees. I stared at my phone screen, still showing unknown number. But now the call timer was frozen at midnight. Like time had stopped. Like this call existed outside of normal reality. You're dead. Yes. And you're calling me from the road, from the ice, from the place where I died. I should have hung up. Should have convinced myself I was hallucinating from fatigue, from stress, from fear. But I didn't, because deep down I believed her. What's your name? I asked quietly. A long pause. Then, Sarah Chin. I was 28. I worked dispatch for a trucking company out of Minneapolis. January 17, 2014. I was warning a driver about black ice on I-35 when I hit a patch myself. Lost control. My car went into the median and rolled. I died before the ambulance arrived. I pulled up Google with shaking hands, typed in her name while trying to keep one eye on the road. The results loaded. Dispatcher dies in I-35 crash while warning truckers. The article was from exactly 10 years ago. Today, January 17, 2014. And there was a photo, a young woman with kind eyes and a professional smile. Sarah Chin. Oh God, I whispered. I know it's hard to believe, she said, but you have to trust me. You're coming up on a bridge in about 2 miles. The ice there is worse. You need to be going no faster than 25 when you hit it. Do you understand? Yes, I said, my voice hollow. I understand. Good. I'll stay on the line. I'll guide you through. She stayed with me for the next 40 miles. Her voice crackling through my phone, warning me about ice patches before I could see them, telling me when to slow down, when it was safe to speed up slightly, when to watch for wind gusts that could push my trailer. She was right every time. The bridge she warned me about was a skating rink. I crawled across it at 25, feeling my trailer want to swing with every foot, but I made it through. 3 miles later, she warned me about a curve that looked clear but was coated in black ice. 5 miles after that, she told me to move to the left lane because a deer was about to cross on the right. Every warning saved my life. We talked too. Between warnings, in the quiet moments, I asked her questions and she answered. About what it was like, being trapped on this highway. About the dozens of drivers she'd warned over the years. About the ones she'd saved and the ones she couldn't reach in time. Do you remember dying? I asked. Every second, she said quietly. I remember the ice, the spin, the roll, the impact. I remember my last thought. I was supposed to meet my parents for dinner that night. I never made it. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just stay alive. That's all I want. For everyone to make it home. At 1:47 a.m., I crossed into Iowa. The roads improved. The ice warnings ended. Sarah's voice became fainter, more distant. You're safe now, she said. You're out of my range. Your range. I can only reach drivers on I-35 in Minnesota, where I died. Once you cross the state line, I can't follow. Sarah, wait. Thank you. You saved my life. You're welcome, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Drive safe. Tell other drivers about the ice. Tell them to slow down. Tell them Sarah is watching. I will. I promise. Good. Goodbye, driver. Wait. The line went dead. I looked at my phone. The call had disconnected. No record of it in my call history. No number saved. Nothing. Like it had never happened. But I knew it had. I made my delivery in Des Moines. Took 2 days off to process what happened. Then I went to the library and researched everything I could find about Sarah Chun. She'd been a dispatcher for 12 years. Beloved by the drivers she worked with. Known for going above and beyond to keep them safe. The night she died, she'd been on the phone with a trucker named Marcus Webb, warning him about black ice. When she hit a patch herself, Marcus survived because of her warning. Sarah didn't. I found her grave in a cemetery outside Minneapolis. Brought flowers. Stood there in the cold and said thank you to the empty air. Since then, I've talked to 6 other drivers who've received calls from unknown numbers on I-35. All in Minnesota. All during black ice warnings. All from a woman who warned them to slow down. Who guided them through dangerous conditions. Who saved their lives. One driver recorded the phone call. Played it for me. It was her. Sarah Chen's voice. Clear as day. Warning him about ice on a bridge. When he tried to call the number back, it didn't exist. Last week, I drove I-35 again. Different load, different day, clear weather. But I still slowed down when I hit Minnesota. Still kept my phone volume on high, just in case. Because somewhere on that highway, Sarah Chun is still working. Still dispatching. Still watching over drivers who are too proud or too desperate to stop for the night. Still saving lives, 10 years after losing her own. And if your phone rings on I-35 in Minnesota, and the caller ID says unknown number, and a woman's voice tells you to slow down, you listen, you slow down, you trust her, because Sarah Chun has never been wrong, and she never will be.